Sure, if you're not at this, what else are you going at? There's nothing better than going around the harbour having a yarn. Hello there, boys, and welcome to episode 8 of this Harbour Yarn podcast with myself, Harbour Customs, otherwise known as Adam Hatter. Boys, how are you getting on? Boys, you can catch up to me on all of my socials. I'm most active on TikTok, but everything that gets posted on TikTok also goes across on Instagram as well. So if you lives over on the gram, well, boy, you'll find me there just the same as on the talk. Boys, this podcast is living on YouTube for the time being. So if you're watching it, you're probably watching it aboard of that right now. But I also got to put on Spotify, because if you likes enjoying your podcast while you're driving along, something like my own self, the two Jennies gets all the airtime back and forth going to St. John's. Well, boy, I got her on the Spotify as well, so you can take her all in over there. Boys, I hope you're well. Now, boys, how did episode 7 get received? Well, boys, like always, episode 7 is not out yet. I only put out episode 6 as soon as I got home on days after this time. Episode 7, probably going to be out in a couple of weeks' time. Obviously, you're already after seeing that if you're following along to them. Now, boys, the reasoning behind that, winter is a busy time of year. Now, I always did know that, but it's really getting highlighted here now, boys. There's a lot on the go between myself and everyone else got a lot on the go too. But, boys, never fear. We're going to have a couple of guests on. I'm hoping to get at it next hitch, but it depends on how busy next hitch is. We'll still be in the winter months. I'm still going to be wrenching on skidoos. I'm still going to be trying to get to the West Coast, and I still got my family to take care of too. So, in short, there's a lot on the go, but we'll see if we can get a couple of people on the heavy yarn. I have been talking back and forth to a couple of hands that I definitely wants to get on, but it's just a matter of nailing down a time when I can get them in. Put them across from me on this table here now, and we can have a dandy old yarn. But time will tell with all that, boys. Until then, you'll have to put up with my own self. Now, boys, moving into the first segment, what's on the go with me? Well, like I just got finished saying, 'tis a busy time home. I was flat out from the time I got in up until now, and I'm going back to work tomorrow. I got a trip in over west. That was the big thing, boy. Usually I tries to get at least 3 or 4 trips in over west a year. Past 2 years, it haven't worked out so good as that. I'm lucky if I can get 2 in. But I got one in under my belt this time. It was a different trip. We stayed up the Taylorsbrook Road. That's not somewhere I normally go. I'm normally staying at Bombay Big Pan, leaving from there and heading a little bit eastward, up into White River Road and then the backcountry in behind. But a buddy wanted to stay at a buddy's place, so I said, fine enough. I usually plan the trip every year. You go for it now this year. So we stayed over to his buddy's place, up on about kilometre 30 at Taylorsbrook Road. Boys, it was a different trip. Normally, I'm used to hauling the truck in, offloading all my gear, hopping on the skidoo, usually about 12 o'clock in the day. This time, we had to leave a little bit later just because of scheduling and all that. Didn't get over till about 8 o'clock. Then we had to cart everything in about 30 kilometres in on slides. Again, not something I'm used to, but a good laugh all the same, boys. I got to say, we had a dandy few days over on the West Coast. Didn't get into a whole lot of terrain. The weather wouldn't really cooperate with us. We have a lot of snow squalls moving on through while I was over there. So every time you tried to get up into the higher elevation and the good terrain, boy, the weather pushed us back down. But I will say, for probably the most powder that I'm after getting into in the years going back and forth over there, no trouble to get into caches of 2, 3, probably 3+ feet of powder. And just playing around on that. So that was fun enough now to go along. We popped out on kilometre, I think, 50 up by Eagle Mountain Lodge on Taylorsbrook Road. And from 50 on into 60, the road wouldn't touch, boys. And it was just the same as riding on a cloud. Had a dandy old laugh. And the boys had a dandy camp up there as well. We stayed with, like you say, my buddy's buddy. It was his father owned the camp and himself. Stayed up there with a couple of buddies of theirs. What a spot they had up there, boy, I got to say. And his buddy's father, the old fella, what a laugh we didn't have with him. That's a fella that I'd love to have on for a yarn. If I can never pry him from Pasadena and put him across the table, but I'd say we could have a 3-part series with me and Roger having a good old yarn. So Roger, boy, I don't know if you'll ever come across this. Certainly, Sean, if you do, show it to your father. We'll have to try to get your father on at some point in time. And that was only last weekend, boys. Certainly now, in the past week, they're after getting hit with a big couple of storm systems, and it's really good and stacked up. All the media I'm seeing from out over west now is snow up past the handlebars and over windshields, making it a real pain to get around, really. But boy, you can burn some fuel over there like that. And this is normally the setup that we do get, boys, as I've found the past few years. Anyway, just when I'm getting ready to go back to work, that's when the winter starts getting going good. And that is the truth for over the West Coast now. My father left and went over yesterday. I should have seen if I could have got over with him myself, because by the conditions over there are something fierce now. As you fellas are watching this now, I'm probably in my last week, I'm guessing, of work. Maybe my first week of my next set of days off. And if time have taught me anything, the conditions are probably gone to shit by now. Usually, the week before I'm coming home, it all turns to mild. everything goes rock hard and you're just trying to pick around for a little bit of good skidooing. Hopefully I'm wrong this year, boys, and I can get another good trip or two over in March. And Jesus, I mean, why not? Let's hope for a good spring trip this year too, that the snow really gets herself down, gets packed in, and we get into late April and early May. Because past few years the snowpack haven't been there to support us. But you never know. We can dream anyway. What? Or at least I can dream. I'd like to get over for a spring trip with the old man there this year. But we'll see what happens with that. We don't need to be talking about spring yet because there's a whole lot of winter left for us yet. Now, boys, beyond riding skidoos, I was also doing a nice bit of wrenching on skidoos. Lots of rollers while I was home this time. Lots of wrenching. Done a couple of reps for the boys. One turned out wicked. Had a nice yellow 25 for ride in. I didn't like that colour when it first came out, I'll be honest. But he had a dandy rep put on her and it really did make the yellow pop. Again, boys, not a huge fan of the yellow, but I might have fell in love a little bit with that machine of his, I tell you. Sharp looking machine. I also had a couple of big events this time home now, boys. February is a large month because you got the wife's birthday and then a couple of days after Valentine's Day. So it's the big 1-2 hit. So we celebrated the wife's birthday. We had a little night away all the way to Pouch Cove. I'll get into that some other day. But we had a dandy all little time there. Shout out to the post-staff house. We had a dandy meal up there, myself and the wife and the little one. Boys, if you haven't been there, certainly try to get up there. They have a dandy spot up there. And to compliment the dandy food, boys, they have probably one of the better views of a restaurant, I'd say, anywhere on the Avalon. So if you haven't taken it in yet, certainly, boys, drop up and pay them a visit. I had a nice last weekend home, I must say. With all the new fresh snow down, we broke the cheetah-roo out. Now, boys, the cheetah been under the patio. I'd say, well, it was certainly 2 years now. I fired her up there summer past just to make sure she wouldn't seized up. But I got out, got her on the go. We got her down to the camp. 2-year-old gas in a 1993 440 doesn't usually work well, but she only shut off a couple of times. She didn't leave me stranded. A little bit of fresh fuel into her, and myself and the little one made her way down the halfway bay there yesterday. What a laugh she had on that machine. I think that was her first time on the skidoo going around. Had her perched in front of me, and she was pretending she was driving. Boy. That's memories there, boys. And it really brings me back to when I was a youngster going around on Father's old Frankenstein of a Jag first. Me and him going around. And then eventually when I got old enough, taking around my own self. And then, of course, doing all the repairs that came with me beating around on an early 80s machine. But boys, you can't buy them memories. They are wicked. And we managed to get up to the warm-up shack that the boys got there in Witless Bay. Boys, that's another thing to shout out. The Southern Shore Trailway Association, the boys got a nice warm-up shack perched up in Witless Bay there. If you haven't had the chance to go see it, and if you're someone who likes getting out on the skidoo or on the bike, take in the Trailway, boys, and have a look at that warm-up shack. The boys got an excellent job done. And boys, if you're using them, feel free to support the boys. They always got fundraisers on the go. I believe they sells ball caps and stickers as well at the Jigger. I think we even have some at the restaurant over the Harbour. If you enjoy that sort of a thing and you get the ability to do so, feel free to try to support the efforts of the boys, because I tell you, they got something nice made up there. We went up and put the fire into the warm-up shack, and it was a nice Sunday evening, I must say. We also got the hats on the go, boys. I got a notification just a couple of days ago that they're on the way to Newfoundland now. As you're watching this, if I'm into my first weekend home, who knows, I might have them. So, boys, if you are interested in getting one of the all hats, you can send us a DM on TikTok. Send us an all email there, harbourcustomsnl@outlook.com, or just find some sort of way to touch and base with me. I'll see if I can't get you fixed up with a hat. We got all new colorways this time, except for this popular blue and copper I got on my old head. That is a hot topic. I don't know, but they're all sold out again. I said I was going to learn my lesson and order more. I didn't order the exact same number, but we got a couple of new colorways as well. We got a black with a yellow logo and a yellow mesh. I call it Dominion hat. You can call it what you want, but I think it's going to look half sharp. I also got navy with an orange logo and orange mesh. And just to switch it up a little bit, because I'm not a huge fan of red, but there are a lot of people that are, I got a red one with a black logo and a black mesh. So, boys, if you're interested in either one of them, just reach out to us and I'll see if I can't get you sorted. If you want to see those colours for yourself, I'm sure I'll have some media up by the time you sees this, so you can have a little gawk at them for yourself and see if there's one that might pique your interest. Now, all that being said, boys, the last time I got these hats ordered in, it did take about 3 months. So, while I can say till I'm blue in the face that he might be there by the time you're watching this or the next time that I get home, we won't know until he gets them in my hand. So, when you see the old media off at him with me showing them off there to you, well, you know that I got them then. And I must say, the take-up on them have been wild. Like, after I sold out to the first batch there, I got that many people messaging me and wondering when the next ones were coming in. I had to start an old spreadsheet just to try to keep track of it all. And that's half amazing to me, boys. But a little old logo that we done up years ago, just for a bit of fun, is after growing to something like this, well, boy, makes me pretty happy, I get to say, that someone would actually go so far to say, yeah, I'll throw that off on my head and sport the whole logo. But it's pretty dandy, I must say. And boys, to wrap it up, this is becoming a bit of a trend, but I'm back to work tomorrow. It seems like I'm always recording an episode of this myself the day before I'm going back. So, yes, we're heading back tomorrow. But everything was on the ground today because of freezing rain, so Monday's flight didn't get out. That means that there's going to be some shuffling around the Tuesday's flight. Now, normally, I always gets bumped up to Monday's flight. Essential personnel was a term that we can remember from a few years ago. Apparently, I'm still on that list. That being said, the forecasted sea state for tomorrow is above 7 meters. Now, boys, we don't fly when the significant sea state is 6 meters or above. So at 7 meters, don't look like we're going to fly. Now, boys, like anything, the forecast is not always right, but you never know. I might get another night home in my bunk. As long as I don't have to pay for it on the back end, well, boy, that'll be fine for me. But even with another night home, boys, like I touched on before, winter really is just getting a good foothold in now, just getting going. Starting to get some decent skidooing on the Avalon that I haven't seen for myself in years, just the way my shift laid down. But I'm going back to work, so that's always leaving a sour taste in your mouth. Not only that, we're going to be in the startup activities while I gets back out there this time. So, POB is still on bus. There's a lot of people, not a lot of personal space on the rig, and I'm going to be busy from the time I sets foot on the boat till the time I gets me arse back on the chopper and leaves. It's going to be a busy hitch. Going to be completely honest with you. Not looking forward to it. Now, boys, moving past that and into the next segment of this episode 8 of the Harbour Yarn podcast, and that's the topic section, boys. On the last podcast, boys, the topic was New Year's resolutions, and I had to try to get episode 7 recorded to get that on the go because the resolutions can only stretch so long. And on top of everything else, I didn't put out any media actually asking people what they thought about the New Year's resolution topic. But in the spirit of persevering, I went out on my own, and we recorded it anyway, just with my own thoughts. Now, touching back on that, I'm not a New Year's resolution type of fella. I figures if I get to make a change in my life, well, I'll just make it whenever I sees fit. Not that I need a step change in the year, but I can appreciate how a lot of people would like that step change in time to say, yep, that's my start line for me goal that I want to reach. I can understand that. Myself, I don't subscribe to it. Anyway, moving past the last podcast topic, because I shagged that one up. I botched it a little bit. We got this topic, and I did put a small little bit of short form out on it. Didn't get a whole lot of take up, but I did get something back and forth. And boys, that is provincial rivalries. Now, what am I talking about with provincial rivalries? Well, the little fun tips in between provinces that you might see come up from time to time. Now, I drew on my own experience. Newfoundland and Quebec always had a little bit of a rocky relationship. Like you say, the Upper Churchill, I think, probably spurred a lot of that. But it's a lot of back and forth in fun. I mean, geez, you don't have to go very far to see the Montreal versus Toronto aspect of it, just supporting the NHL. But I wanted to see, was there other little provincial rivalries across Canada that I didn't know about that people might hold? Now, I always thought the Prairies got along a little bit. I got a little bit of feedback on that there was a little bit of playful banter back and forth between all them. BC, I never heard nothing about BC. And my thoughts about that was they're just out to the west chilling out on their own self. And that kind of held true from what I got for feedback. Maybe I just didn't strike a chord with the boys out in BC, who knows. Also, a little bit of playful fun with the Maritimes. I see one person commented on the video and said New Brunswick, poking at New Brunswick. Now boys, you can draw your own conclusions on that. I visited New Brunswick, never really stopped to stay there, but I did drive through there. I thought it was alright. But it seems like the boys were poking back and forth. Nothing much coming from the Maritimes poking at Newfoundland. I will give them that. There was a couple of pokes at Cape Breton from their fellow people in Nova Scotia. I guess a causeway can make a big difference to people. Who knows? Again, boys, I visited Nova Scotia. I visited Cape Breton. Two of the spots I can't find a fault in my own self. That's just that. Another one I never heard much about was the territories, the boys up north. Never heard much in the way of people poking at them or them poking at anyone else. Boys, if you sees this and you can think of any provincial rivalries your own self, throw them down in the comments there. I'd love to hear a little bit more, because there's definitely a little few undertones there that I'm not after tapping into, and boy, I'd love to hear about them. It's all in a good bit of fun, boys, you know us now. Now, boys, a podcast topic is never really done, so if you want to respond to this one or any topic from in the past, boys, send us a DM, send us an email, throw it in the comments. It's all a good yarn, boys, and we can spin another little bit of a yarn onto it. We can touch on it later on down the road. You just let us know. But putting this one in the rear view for now, we're going to move into the next topic. And, boys, I will put a bit of media out on that in the next little while. Maybe I'll record a little bit of a short form today on it. But, boys, keeping with the rivalry topic, let's scale her in a little bit. What about town rivalries here in Newfoundland? Now, That should be pretty explanatory, boys. A couple of examples I'll throw out there. St. John's versus Mount Pearl versus Paradise. And let's even throw CBS in the mix too, because they're all in close proximity with each other. Who's taking pokes at who? Another one that came to mind when I was thinking about it, and I thought about it when I drove through this past time. Grand Falls, Windsor, and Bishop's Falls. I kind of lumps them all into one thing when I'm driving through there. The only time that I really distinguishes between them is when I halts into the Tim Hortons, the South End Highway. I calls that Bishop's Falls. I don't even know if that's right. And even saying it now, I don't know if Bishop's Falls is actually the name of that spot. Maybe it's just Bishop's. But boys from Central, what do you figure about that? I always hear there's a distinction between Grand Falls and Windsor. I've always called it Grand Falls, Windsor, just like that's the name of the place. Apparently, that's the two different places in it. So I'd love to hear from you boys over in Central. What's the friction there between them towns? Is there a distinction? Are you all getting along? Is there a little bit of a rivalry there? You let us know. Another one I come to mind that didn't really a rivalry. You got Cornerbrook over there, which probably should have been the capital of Newfoundland, let's be honest. And you got Pasadena in alongside of her. Now, no doubt, two very different places. Cornerbrook got all the amenities, but Pasadena is like Newfoundland's little hidden gem. Is there a little bit of animosity there? All the boys from Pasadena coming into Cornerbrook and then taking off. What do you think? And then going into Deer Lake as well. Deer Lake's beautiful, boys, but she's not Pasadena. So what do you think about that? The whole Bjorn Peninsula, I remember in my little bit of time down there, it was always the Western Shore had a little bit of a rivalry with the Eastern Shore, certain communities and all that. But boys, let me know what ye thinks. Throw it in the comments, throw it somewhere, and we'll talk about it on episode 9 of the Harbour Yarn podcast, boys. I'd love to hear about little rivalries all across Newfoundland and Labrador. If you can't have a laugh at it, sure, what's the odds of it all? Now, boys, this will be the portion of the podcast where I'd have a guest on. But again, boys, winter is a busy time of year, and I don't have any guests pre-recorded to actually throw in here. I do got lots of people lined up, like I touched on earlier in this podcast, but time will have to tell on who he actually gets on. Moving into the last segment of this Harbour Yarn podcast, boys, the VOCM topic of the week, and one that's really after dominating the news the past few days ahead of me recording this, the cargo ship that went aground in Lark Harbour, boys. I tell you, it was something else. The name of her is the MSC Baltic III, I do believe. The reports that I'm after reading is that she blacked out somewhere off the coast a little bit. Obviously, she wasn't able to regain power, whatever was on the go with her, and she drifted right in on the hard ground, and that's where she stayed. And boys, the day that it happened, like most things, it don't happen on a good day. It was a dirty day altogether. And by, like you say, it probably do happen on a good day, but you just don't hear about them. You'll regain your power and you'll keep on steaming on your way. Won't make any headlines or nothing like that. So unless you're on the boat, you probably would never hear about it. But when it happens in weather, like it did happen there the other day, and we as a term in industry that we use, stuff starts escalating. So they blacked out, didn't get their power back on. The sea was taking her. I don't know if dropping the anchor was actually an option for him, because sometimes that's not always going to work depending on the depth of the water that you're in and the type of bottom that you got onto it. But she did end up going aground. It was a hell of a day. I don't know if you see any media on it, but it was a rough old day. So obviously when she went aground, the boys had to get after her. Now, you would look at that and say, well, she's a big boat. She's in on the rocks. Yes. Nothing much might happen from there. Well, boy, you'd be wrong in saying that. You don't know what that boat is going to do then. She could dislodge herself, start taking on water, and end up actually sinking or capsizing. You don't want to be on her when you're in that sort of a situation. So the boys had to get off her. Like you say, if you're looking at any of that media, boys, a ship-to-ship transfer was not going to happen that day. It was just too rough. So the boys from Search and Rescue got dispatched. God love them. They does excellent work, and we don't shout them out enough. I know it's every time that a big event do happen, you might see the little media snippets of it, but the boys don't get enough credit where credit is due there. They does a hell of a job, and you can see it on the rescue they done that day. They actually got a cormorant helicopter up above her and were able to winch all the boys up off the boat with the Sartex. That is not an easy thing, boys. It's one thing to go winching people up off the ground, a static environment, say, on a good day. It's different when you got a gale of wind coming in, a pile of waves coming in, beating off the side of the ship. There's one point a wave comes in, hits the side of the ship, and the spray actually drives up so much that it's almost going up into the wash of the chopper. Boys, that is a hard day. So to be able to get everyone off safely, a large effort, don't even go to start describing it. And it's hard to get a scale of these things too. Like, I know when I looked at the media, you look at that cormorant helicopter, she don't look that big in the scheme of things, especially alongside of that big old cargo ship. Boys, I've been on the boat when she's landed on the heli deck. She's the full of the heli deck, boys. That is a big helicopter. The Sikorsky S-92s we flies on are big enough, but these things makes the S-92 look small. When they're on the heli deck, they're large old machines, and to be able to keep that on station and actually send a Sartec down, pluck a person off, go up, and keep doing that till he gets everyone off, not an easy thing to do, boys. So a big thing I want to highlight in covering this VOCM topic of that boat going aground, boys, was the efforts of the search and rescue crew to get everyone off safe. That's huge, boys. And my heck goes after you for what he does each and every day, and especially on the rescues. But being available when the time comes that you're needed, because like I said earlier, 9 chances out of 10 is not happening on a good day. It's happening on a terrible day, but the job still got to get done, and in these sort of situations there's usually lives on the line. It's not the matter of, well, you're just not getting the job done today. There's people counting on you. I know in my own line of work, or even outside of work, when I'm over on the West Coast Skadoon or something like that, you don't want to see the day when you actually got to call and activate search and rescue. But if you do get to that point, you're relying on them with everything then, boys, because they're the last resort. So, to cap it all off, good job to the boys. Now, after getting everyone off safe and sound, there's still a lot of work to be done. As of today, while I'm recording this, the boat is still aground. She's still in the same spot where she went aground in the first place. They did mobilise one of the offshore supply boats that was laid off on Warmstack over to help, I guess, try to get her off the rocks and everything else. But there's a lot of effort that's going to have to go into that. You got to look to see if the hull is breached, if she's actually after taking on water, if she actually can float after she gets off the rocks, and any possible spill that you might have after. While she's not a tanker, she is a cargo carrier, and you don't know what tanks or anything might be breached, and you could get a leak. Now, it don't look like anything's leaking at this time from the little bit of media and what I'm after reading so far, but that's not to say that situation can't change. So I believe the Coast Guard is handy around her too with some spill kits and containment kits. I guess when the weather calms down and they'll try to move her, the boys will be ready with all that equipment there to try to prevent any sort of spill from trying to get her off. Hopefully, it's just a couple of crumps and dents. She can float her way off the rocks when they tows her back out of it, and then get her into a dry dock and get her fixed up. He always hopes for the best case scenario with that, because nobody wants to see no oil or nothing like that going to water. That's a bad day for everyone, and certainly a bad day for the whole environment. So we'll see as time goes on. Hopefully we get a positive outcome out of that. Hopefully by the time that you're seeing this, the boat is after getting off the rocks, everything is okay, and she's away in dry dock getting all fixed up. And boys, with the end of the VOCM topic, that do bring this episode 8 of the Harbour Yarn podcast to a close. Boys, I always do like to take the time to thank you if you've actually made it to this point in the podcast and watching along. I appreciate you. It's always a good laugh to sit down and have a yarn with you. I loves it. The long form stuff is a little bit different than all the short form stuff I'm used to doing, but I got to say I do enjoy doing it. But it's a lot of effort that goes into the back end to actually do all the editing stuff too. So if you're after remaining interested up to this point, well, boy, I do thank you for sticking around to now. Boys, like I mentioned earlier, you can follow along on all the socials. I'm going to try to point to some buttons now, so I'm getting into that, into the editing portion. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram. This is living on YouTube right now. You're probably watching it right there. And I got her on Spotify as well, if you'd rather listen to it. I don't know how all them buttons just worked out, boys, but why not give it a try? Boys, wherever you're to and wherever you are, I hope you're keeping well. We're into the biggest kind of a cold snap now. I'm sure there's mini splits busted. Hopefully you get a secondary heat source other than the mini split. If it's electric heat, Light and Power is having a dandy laugh right now, because I'd say they're raking it in minus 10 in the night time. If you're on wood heat, there's no odds to anyway. You're probably just saying, geez, the wind is sucking the heat right at the house tonight. I have to burn another cord of wood in the month. Well, boy, at least it's a dandy old good wood heat out of it. I tell you, the mini splits I got can't hold a candle to that good old wood heat. And in the next house, if there ever is a next house, there'll be a wood stove going in that. I can guarantee you that much. Beyond that, boys, we'll catch you on the next episode 9 of the Harbour Yarn podcast. Between now and then, I hope you're having a dandy one, boys. We'll end her off like VOCM always do say, boys. Arrive alive, boys. VOCM cares.